Hi not board gamers and welcome back to Not Board Gaming. I'm your host, I'm Mark. Now in today's episode we're going to be reviewing a game that is everywhere at the moment. You literally cannot turn on your social media accounts without somebody posting either they played this game or what the scores are on this game. Now, obviously I'm not talking about Wordle, I am talking about Ark Nova from Furland and Capstone Games and designed by Matthias Wigge. Now this is a bit of a darling at the moment. It was kind of debuted at Essen last year, but really for pre-orders only. I think they had a very limited amount of stock in for sale, and you had to queue for a long time to get it. Now I went to Essen and I missed out on this completely, but then I subsequently played it at GridCon, at Paul Grogan's GridCon in November as a multiplayer game, and then I played it so many times on Tabletop Simulator as a solo game, and then about 4 weeks ago, just before it came to stock elsewhere, a local FLGS to me contacted me and said they had a copy and would I like to buy it, and I did. So I've had the game for about 4 weeks now and it's hit my table repeatedly. I can say in 4 weeks I've easily played about 15 or 20 games of Ark Nova. So what is Ark Nova? What exactly is Ark Nova and what does it do? So in Ark Nova, you as a solo player, or as I said, it plays up to 4 players, you're going to be running a zoo. And over the course of the game, the aim of your zoo is to try and increase your reputation and increase your appeal until you get to a point where your appeal and your reputation cross over each other. In the solo game, that will then give you your final score. In the multiplayer game, that actually triggers the end of the game, but the solo game plays a little bit different. You see, in the solo game, your zoo, you're going to try and build up your zoo and put buildings in there and put animals in there and get sponsorship and have associations, etc. But you're going to have to do it over just 27 moves. That's right, just 27 moves. You see, there are a number of rounds in the solo game. You get a decreasing number of turns each round in the solo game. Now, if you've played a game like Terraforming Mars, and a lot of people tell you that this is, you know, has some similarities to Terraforming Mars, and it does. Personally, I don't really enjoy Terraforming Mars. I get why people enjoy it, it's just not for me. Then you will know that this is a kind of tile-laying, massive stack of card-playing game where you're trying to maximize the cards that come out, hit strategies to try and help you, as I say, increase your appeal and increase your reputation so you can try and beat that score at the end of the game. Now, the solo game, as I say, plays over a set number of turns, over a set number of rounds, and it is a little bit beat your own score, kind of ish. There are modifiers that you can do with the game in terms of what your starting appeal is. You can either increase or decrease the points in that, but the aim of the game is to try and end with not having negative points. So as I say, a little bit Terraforming Mars-ish in its gameplay with the tile laying as you're buying certain enclosures for your zoo. With the card play that you've got your cards in your hand, you've got your cards in the display in front of you, that you're trying to maximize those efficiencies on there, trying to fill your zoo up to hit certain objectives, or maybe do other things with your cards to try and maximize those points as you go through. It does have also a conservation theme as well. So certain parts of the game will give you increased reputation if you have certain facts in there. So say animals from a certain continent or certain types of animals, and there's certain cards that you can play as well that will allow you to release animals back into the wild as well. So it has a conservation type theme in there. It's a very, very slick game. It plays as a solo game. You can be playing this, setting it up and playing it and tearing it down in a little over an hour as a solo gamer. That's pretty bloody good. But does it hit the mark totally? Well, before we do that, let's just take a look at kind of how the board is laid out and how you play through Ark Nova by Matthias Wigge, Furland and Capstone Games as a solo gamer. Okay, so as we can see in front of us, I set out Ark Nova for a solo game. And what I'll do is I'll just run you through quickly kind of what you get with the game and how it's all set out. First of all, there's a couple of really nice storage trays at the top, and you can put all of your various tiles in there, your hex tiles in there, and all the tokens and money that you need to play the game. That's really good because the setup It takes around about 5 minutes and that's it, which is really, really good for a game like this. Over here is the main board. And we start here, we have 0 reputation, and here is your appeal. And you know, if you want an easier game, you can start on 20 appeal. A medium game, you can start on 10 appeal. And if you want a harder game, you can start on 0 appeal, or anywhere in between. Basically, it's completely up to you. And the aim of the game as you progress is your appeal will start going up on these brown ones here, and then your reputation will move up on the green ones. And if at any point your appeal surpasses your reputation, goes around the board and surpasses it there, then you're going to be winning the game with positive points. However, in a lot of cases, what's generally going to happen is your appeal is going to be lagging somewhere behind your reputation, depending on what difficulty you started and what maps you chose, and therefore you're going to lose the game. So that's the aim of the game, is to try and, as I say, increase your appeal and increase your reputation so the two cross over. On the board we have the kind of central display here. Now I've laid some cards down. You can see there's a huge stack of cards over there on the right hand side. There is absolutely no way as a solo gamer that you've got to go through that entire stack of cards. In fact, what I tend to do is put about a quarter of the stack out and put the rest to one side. If I do by any chance go through that quarter of the stack, I then just top it up, because there are a lot of cards covering a lot of different animals and a lot of possibilities just there. What you do is, when you set the game up, is you put these cards on the display here face down. Once you've chosen your objectives, and I'll come to those in a second, you will then flip those over, and that will give you what's in the starting display for your set of cards. Now over here on the right hand side, just here, we have the kind of association board, if you like, and also the solo board just here, and we'll talk about that in a second. Now the association board is where you can take a particular action and you can become a partner with a certain zoo, or you can get these kind of university things which will give you additional boons on there, or you can play something into the conservation area here, depending on, if you look at these 3 cards I've got down here, we have, if I've got reptiles, I could play one of these actions and get some reputation points for it. If I've got animals from this particular region, then I can play that, and animals from that particular region, I can play that as well, and that will give you some reputation points depending on what you do. You also have space on top of the board for when you get some conservation cards in your hand where you can release animals out into the wild. The other thing to note as well is there are a number of objective cards, if you like, and you dealt 2 at the beginning of the game. If your reputation reaches a certain spot there, which is number 10, then you're going to discard one of those. But also by the end of the game, if you haven't reached 10 reputation, you'll also discard one. And what we got here, it says here that I would get on this one, I would get reputation points for supporting conservation projects on zoos. So therefore, if I've got 3 of my cubes on these cards here, I would get 1 point. If I've got 4, I'd get 2 points, etc., and going onwards. And here we've got biodiverse zoo. So I'd get a reputation point for each animal category icon, of which you have more than the person to your right. And down here is a solo. Oh, it's do not use, draw another card. So that's good. And as you can see down at the bottom on that are the solo objectives, if you like. And these are generally in blue on these cards, and it says there don't use that particular card. So here we go. This would give me reputation points for having empty building spaces in my zoo. So I've got 6 empty hexes, 1 reputation point. 12, 2, 18, 3, 24, 4. We'll come on to the zoos now. You see over here are your zoo maps. Is your zoo map just down here on my left, and there are a number of zoo maps that you get with the game, because some of them will just have the kind of basic on there, and then others will have different things. So for example, this one is ice cream parlors, and it says here if all the kiosks are covered, so there are certain kiosk ones up here, if all those are covered, then I gain 1 extra income for each kiosk, and each kiosk give you 1. Let's look at this one. This one is each time you cover a H, so it's a Hollywood Hills, each time you cover a H, reveal cards from the deck and add the first sponsor card to your hand. All H's covered, each sponsor card is -1 on the on your sheet when it's played, and I'll come on to how that works. So we can see here that we have the kind of starting map here that I've chosen. So on this particular map, what you're going to do is you're going to start with a face down tile. These are the tiles. That's the 3 tile. Face down is there, but it's got no animals in, and face up is that. And you're going to put that there. Okay, and the aim of the game, or one of the aims of the game, is to build out your zoo. So throughout the game, I'll be building enclosures in the zoo, and you have to be touching an existing enclosure. Or if you're starting without this particular map, which gives you a starting tile, then your first tile has to be touching a border edge. And as you move around and expand around that map, you can see these little icons, because when you cover those up, you're going to get certain bonuses. So down here are my kind of conservation bonuses. So whenever I play a cube onto here or onto the conservation cards, I move one of these cubes across from there onto there. That gives you, first of all, in the top ones, the top 4, gives you an instant bonus, and then a repeating bonus each round. And on the bottom, it gives you just an instant bonus. Here are where I'm going to get my partnership. So when I get an association action with a zoo, I can take a partnership for a particular continent, put it on there, and what that will do is reduce the cost of certain animals from those particular continents. And here are the university ones as well. So they will give me certain boons. They will move me up on the knowledge track, or they will increase my hand size, or give me science targets as well. And that's the important thing as well. Here is your knowledge track. So your knowledge will increase throughout the game. What that does, well, certainly it can score your points as you get towards the end of the game and give you certain bonuses. But when we flipped these cards in the display, wherever your knowledge marker is, chances are most of the times you want to take cards from there, it's going to be from where your knowledge marker is or further back. So if my knowledge marker was there, I'd be able to take any of those 4 cards once they're flipped up. You start with 25 cash, and you can see the coins here, and these are your associates, if you like. They're going to use on the association board. So you start the game with just 1 of those. And then finally, down in the bottom left down here, you can see your cards. Now you always start on, they're all blue side up, and you always start with the animals card in the left space, and then you shuffle the rest and put them out randomly. Each of these allow you to do a slightly different thing, and also depending on the power that they're at as well. So you can see at the top we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Depending on where they are on that will give you certain actions on the board. So say for example, this sponsors card, okay, this is on number 5. If I'd had a number 5 sponsorship card in my hand, I would be able to play that or any card under it. However, if that was only at number 2, then I would only be able to play a number 2 sponsorship card. Same for build here. So this says on the build, I can build 1 building with a maximum size of X and pay 2 per space. Well, I'm on 4 there, so I can build 1 building up to a size 4, and it would cost me 8 coins to do that. And here are the various building tiles, and you can see there is a size 4 building there. And of course, as you play through the game, these will shift position, because once you've played a card, the rest move up to fill the gap, and that goes to the back of the pack. So the further up they are, the stronger the actions that you can do on there as well. So we'll just move that back to there. So that's kind of, the mechanics of the game itself. Now, in the solo game, what's going to happen is you're going to take an action each turn. So let's just do this. Let's just flip these over. So we'll do the display. I should actually do this after I've chosen my starting cards. And what happens is at the beginning of the game, you're going to deal yourself out 8 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, we'll put those back. And we're going to choose 4 of those. Now, as it's only a tester game, I'm not really going to choose this too much, so we'll choose that, a sponsor card, and maybe that one as well, and we'll put those back. Then what you would do is absolutely flip those over, and you can see in the display we've got a number of cards in the display. They're going from sponsorship cards, which are these here, to animal cards in there. So that's kind of what would happen. And then in the solo game, what's going to happen is you're going to take a turn. So as you can see, you get 7 moves in the first game, in the first round, 6 in the next round, 5 in the subsequent round, and you're going to do all that until you down to these final 2, and you take 1 final move there. And for ease, what I tend to do is when I've chosen a particular action, I move this cube across onto the card I'm using. When I've done the move, so say I've done the sponsorship action, those cards move up, that goes to the bottom, and then I move this particular cube over to here, and that tells me that my go is done. Okay, so that's kind of how this solo game is going to work. And you would do that on a decreasing number of turns each round until you finish the final round. You played everything, and hopefully by the end of that, your appeal has surpassed your reputation, and therefore you're in positive points. And you've won that particular game. Sounds good. Sounds easy, doesn't it? Oh, well, it's not. There are a lot of variables in Ark Nova. Okay, so we're all set up for the solo game. I've got my 4 starting cards. I've got my objectives, and what I've done is I've taken the sleeves off the 5 player cards that you use here. But trust me, this is a game that you're going to want to sleeve. As you can see, I've also reduced the amount of cards in the deck as well. I've got more over there. If I need more, I will kind of get more. And as we saw from that objective card as well, there's certain solo actions on some of the cards. So say, for example, here. So some of the cards are geared for multiplayer, but if they've got a blue flash at the bottom, therefore the solo game there. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll go through a round. I'll show you how a round works. And normally what you would do is you would kind of get your starting cards from your 8 cards based on the objectives that are here, and then try and work something out from those objectives. And we know the objectives are the Conservation Zoo for getting reputation points for completing conservation projects, or the Naturalist Zoo for empty spaces in your zoo as well. Not going to worry about too much about that for this illustrative game. So, kind of the first thing you do is, here is the solo board, and you're going to take one of these cubes and put it on the action that you want. I think the first thing I want to do is build here. So if I put that on 4, I can build one building with a maximum size of whatever the X is, and X is related to what the power is up here, so it's 4 on my map, and if I build that, I pay 2 per space. So if I want to build that zoo, I got 25, you start the game with 25 coins, I could build a 3 here. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to build a 3 here, so I'm going to pay 6 coins. So let me do that and get 14 back. 10, 1, 2, 3, 4. Get 14 back into my hand just there. And I'm going to take a 3 enclosure, that's one of these here. And you put it face down on the board. So I'm going to put this, where should I put this? Just there. Now you can see I'm covering up on my board, you may not be able to see, I'm covering up a little symbol there that's got a 5 on it. That means I get 5 cash back for covering that up. So there we go, that's 5 cash back into my hand just there. And that's that action done. I built a 3 enclosure, I paid 6 for it, I've covered up a thing, got 5 back, so I'm going to move that onto there, take that card out of there, slide all those up, and put that on the number 1 spot. Now what this does is there's some of these cards, well, all of the cards you get more the further up they are, but you can see here on animals, on 0, when it's down at number 1, that's why it starts on number 1, you can't release any animals, but as it moves at the board you can release an animal, and when it gets to 5 you can release 2 animals if you've got 2 enclosures. Same with cards as well. You can increase the number of cards that you can take as you move up on your board, and certainly as you get to the 5th space there's something called snap, which we'll cover. So that's go number 1. As you can see, we've done that there. So the next thing I potentially want to do now is maybe use this sponsorship card. So as you can see here, I've got this sponsor which is number 5. That's in the number 5 space. Excuse me. That means I can use this particular card, and it's a zoo school. It says place on at least 2 border spaces, which I think I can do, and take 1 card from the deck or in the reputation range. So this is that particular thing. So you get some special tiles that are up there, and you can see that that matches with that zoo school. And what I'm thinking I'm doing is placing that, I've got to place it in 2 border spaces just there. Okay, so excuse me, I've fully surrounded this kiosk. That comes in handy in the income round, in the income part of it, but I've also covered this up, which gives me a little X. So I'm going to place that there, just there, 2 border spaces, which is these here, and I get one of these X tokens. Now what these do is these allow you to increase the level of what you're playing. Obviously I can't do it on the one I'm just playing, sorry, I should have put that on there. But if, say for example, next go, I wanted to play that association, it was in 4, it's actually going to be in 5, then that would give it a strength of 5 if I used that particular card. But there's also this down here, it says I can then take 1 card from the deck or within reputation range. My reputation range is here, so I can take that, which gives me a 6 association or 1 card from the deck. So that's what we'll do. We'll take a card from the deck, see what that is. It's a 6 sponsorship. It's a 5 sponsorship for a sea turtle tank, so that goes into my hand. But also down here at the bottom left, it also, as you can see, it gives me a couple of bonuses. One is it moves up my knowledge, so I move from 1 to 2. Which now gives me 2 cards I can use. And the second one, it gives me my first reputation point, and that moves up there. So that's a sponsorship action done. We do that, we move them down there, and you can see the tableau is moving along quite nicely. And we're going to put that in my zoo just there. Okay, so I've still got a deck of 4 cards because I took this sponsorship card, but now right at the top we have what's called an association action, and these allow me to use this particular board here. So I'll just move this across. There we go. Okay, so on the association board there's certain things depending on where that card is. Now it's a number 5, so I could play my association associate into there, and if I had any of these symbols in my zoo already, I would then be able to place it on there and start my conservation projects. I don't have any animals in my zoo just yet, but we will take an association action. So I'm going to take that, put that on there, and this allows me to take anything up here. So I can perform 1 association action with a maximum value of X, X being 5 because it's in the 5th place. And maybe what I want to start doing is it's starting a partnership with some of the zoos. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take my guy and we're going to put him there, and we're going to take this green partnership, and you'll see why in a second, and we're going to put that on there. And that means any of those that I get from, I think it's Asia, any that I get from here, I can then start playing into, I pay 3 less for them, which is, pretty good. And that's that one done. So you can see the game is zipping along fairly quickly. And, as you play the game, you will tend to spend more time in a full game because you want to start thinking about every move and start analysing the moves that you make. Okay, we're going to stay in 5 for the moment up here. And in 5, you can see the break symbol at the top here. I'll just show you this card. We have the cards card, and it says break at the top. That's really for the multiplayer game. What that would do is move the break marker up 2 on a track. In the solo game, it happens differently. And then I can either draw cards from the deck or snap. So here, we're at strength 5. That would allow me to draw 3 cards from the deck and then discard a card, or I can snap. And what snap allows you to do is take any card from the display, and that can be a really powerful move to do. So if we look at the cards in the display, we've got a couple of sponsorships there, and then we have one with a hex size of 1, enclosure size of 1, one with an enclosure size of 5, another one with 1, and another one with 5, but they've got some symbols on there. So I'm actually going to take 3 cards from the deck here. But do not discount that snap move. It's a really good move. We've got 3 cards here. So I've got 2 more sponsorship cards. So I've got a 5 strength here and a 3 strength, which gives me 4 appeal points. That could be a good one to keep. That, which is allowed to go on to a 1, so I'm going to keep that. I'm going to get rid of that card. So suddenly my hand size is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 there at the moment. So I forgot to put that on there. It's 6 on there at the moment, and at the end of this round I'm going to have to discard that down to 3. So we'll move that over there, move that card action up, and here's the good thing now. So now, up in prime place. Now, it's purely out of chance that I'm playing the 5th one. I could play any of these if I wanted to, like I did with Build earlier. This now allows me to release some animals, and it says here, because it's on strength 5, I can release 2 animals out into the wild if I have enough cash. I've got 2 enclosures. That means I've got enough space for 2 animals, but it's all about the cash because animals cost money. So the first thing I want to do is potentially release this animal here. Okay. Why am I releasing this animal? Well, it's an enclosure space 3, as you can see from the hex at the top. It's going to cost me 14 in my cash. I know I've got a bit more cash because I've got 5 back. But here, obviously, we can see it's got the same continents as I've got there. So it's only going to cost me 11 to release that animal. So that's the first thing we're going to do, is release that animal. I will pay 11. That's 10 and 11. 2. And I'll put that animal into my zoo. First thing I'm going to do is turn over one of these enclosure spaces, as it's now got an animal in there. But secondly, if you look down here, it's got this little ticket, which is the appeal, and this is going to give me 6 appeal. So I will move that up from 10 to 16. But there's also, on a lot of the cards, some secondary powers. After finishing the current action, I may place my association action card on 1 or 5. So we'll keep that there because I may release another animal. So how much cash have I got? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, that's a shame. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay. So had I got one more, I would have been able to release this, as it's a 2 size, into my other 3, but I can't because I don't have only got, even with -3, that only gives me 14, and I've got 13 there, so I can't do that. So what I may well do then is release this particular animal here. Hex size 1, you can release it in any zoo, in any enclosure that's either the same size or less than, and it's going to cost me 10. So that's what we'll do. We'll put my 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oops, 10. They go into there, and I'm going to place this particular card as well, which gives me a further 4 appeal points there. So as you can see, 4. So we'll move that up to, I'm now on 20 appeal points. But here it says, after finishing the current action, I may place any action card on number 1. So we finished the action. That should have been on there. That goes over there now. We'll move that there. And then it tells me I can place my association action on 1 or 5. I've got 2 goes left. I've already taken my association action, so I can't do anything else this turn with my association action. So what I'm going to do is actually move that down to number 1, and that's moved those cards up. And then if I use this particular action here, it says, after finishing the current action, you may place any action card on 1. Do I want to move cards down? Well, yes, I do actually. Let's move that card 1 down because I've got quite a number of cards here. And you can see I'm cycling through that kind of nicely. So we've gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 goes so far this turn, and I've still got 2 left. I have a hand of 4 cards left. I've got 1 sponsor played and 2 animals into my zoo. Okay, so what could we do next? We could build another building. Oh, got to flip that one over. There we go. So that's flipped over now. So we could build another building, but I've only got 3 coins left. So, and maybe I could build this one here. I could build one for this. So that may be what we'll do. In fact, that's what we'll do. We'll kind of waste a bit of a build action because it's on 5, but I'm only going to build an enclosure with a size of 1. And here we go. So I'll take one of these, and I'm going to put this onto the board here. And I don't know if you can see that symbol, but that allows me to pick a card up from within my reputation range and put it in my hand. So what we'll do is we'll take this Okapi stable card. There we go. That's gone into my hand. You leave that blank until the end of your turn. That, an enclosure 1 is going to cost me 2 for there. And that's that particular go done. So I've now only got 1 go left. 2, 3, 4. But you can see I've only got 1 coin left as well. So I could play another sponsorship card here, or I could play an animals card, but I don't have the cash for it. I could play an association card. I've got no association associates left. I could take more cards into my hand, as that's on a 2. I could get 1 card, or I could use that and get 2 cards and discard 1, or I could build, which I've already done, and take my maximum. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a sponsor card for my last go this round. We'll do that, and we can play this sponsor card here. And this says, each time you play a reptile icon into your zoo, you may sell up to 2 cards from your hand for 4 coins each, which is good. And then I can take that that and place it next to at least one water space. Okay, so let's do that. Let's find the right thing. That's the one. And I have to place this next to at least one water space. So where could I place that? Well, I suppose it's not touching there. It has to be touching an existing. There we go. Place that there. Place that. It's next to at least one water space, but it's also covering up 2 on the map as well. Get to take a card from my reputation range, which we didn't fill at the end of my go. There we go. So to take a card from within my reputation range and also get another X token as well. So we get that X token. So I've got 2 of those, which give me a bit of a boost. And also take a card from my reputation range. We will take this card because that one needs a level 2 animal card there. Okay, so now we have these cards in my hand. I played that, and also, as I say, it allows me to get 2 for every reptile symbol that I play in there. So that's the end of that particular go. We move all those over there, move this up. Now, as I say, in the multiplayer game, you've got a break track which kind of moves up here, and when you take certain actions, that moves the break up. In the solo game, what happens when you've gone through all of these, that's when your break is starts here. So the first thing we do, and I just use this marker, it's kind of unnecessary in the solo game, but I use a little teacup marker to tell me what I need to do. First thing I'd have to do, discard my hands down to 3 cards. Okay, so these are the cards I've got. I know I'm probably not going to use the Okapi one, and I've got a couple of those, so I'm actually going to put those 2 sponsorship cards back into my hand, into the discard pile, and there we go. I've got 3 cards in my hand. Actually, no, what we'll do is we will keep the Okapi one, and we'll get rid of that venomous one that I've just picked up. So there are the 3 cards now in my hand. The next thing you would do is you would refill any of these on here, but because I've taken that and there's only me playing the game, that wouldn't happen. Then you discard 2 cards at the far end and you refill the track. And you can see this is how one of the ways this track starts to get refilled. Then we got the income phase. So if any of these cards have got a little hand on them, I would generate income from them, but none of the cards have. The next thing I do is generate income from around where my kiosks are. I've got 1 kiosk, and there are 2 flip tiles here, as well as a unique enclosure there. And I get 1 coin for each of those, so that gives me 3. 1, 2, 3. So having kiosks on the board can be really good for generating income. And the final thing you do for income is we have a look at where I am on my appeal here. And here my appeal is on 20, and you may not be able to see that there. That gives me another 17 there. So if I take 20 and give 3 back, I'm going to start this round with 21 coins and 2 of those X tokens. Also, if I'd used any of my cubes here and put them over on the conservation project, that's what would happen, is I would then also potentially generate whatever income I'd use from the top there. So take that back to there. That's the end of the first round. What's going to happen is we're going to move the bottom 6 of these across, and the top one is going to move over here onto this particular board, and it's going to block this space here, which allows you to make donations to get reputation points, but you have to have one of your cards flipped up to 2. You have to have your association card. So that goes on there. Now, as you can see, I've got 1 less go this next round. That is a round of Ark Nova. We haven't really got the engine going yet because we've only played a few cards into here. Reputation's moved up ever so slightly. When you hit these particular things here, you can see where you've got these. 2 of them are printed and then the others are random tokens you put on there. You get to choose 1 of those and only 1 of those as you're on there. You don't get to choose all of them. So you get to choose those. And as I say, when that moves to number 10, you're going to get rid of one of your objective cards. By the way I'm building, it looks like I wouldn't be going for this kind of for the empty zoo one. It's possibly going to be that I'm going to want to do an association action and start kind of a conservation action and start putting my cubes on that board. there you go. That is a round of Ark Nova, the solo game. As you can see, this is what really changes here. It's the brake mechanism that changes for the solo game. Okay, so that's a really quick overview on a single round of Ark Nova, the solo game from Furland and Capstone Games and Designed by Matthias Wigge. Look, as you can see from the solo game, and I barely scratched the surface of what happens there. We never even talked about how you upgrade the cards to their more powerful side in your player area, about the various types of conservation projects that you can do, i.e. releasing animals back out into the wild, the number of tokens you can get, the 2x token, and the various things that you can do within the solo game as well. It's a absolutely cracking game, and I think you can tell by the fact I've played it so many times since I got this game about 4 weeks ago. It kind of hits that trifecta of what you're looking for from a solo game. First of all, you can set it up, play it, and put it away in maybe about an hour, basically. Generally what you're going to do though, set it up and play a couple of games on the bounce. It plays really, really quickly as a solo game, depending on kind of your decision tree and your decision space and how long you take to make those decisions as well. The other thing is it's pretty easy to learn. The rule book, which is here, is a pretty all-encompassing rule book. It's not necessarily laid out, it's a bit more like a textbook how it's laid out, but once you play through it maybe once or twice, you'll have the hang of it, and that'll help you start zipping along on those games as well. And the other thing it delivers as well, part of that trifecta, is dynamic gameplay as well. No two games play the same in any way, shape or form, and certainly when you start adding those variant boards in there for your zoos as well, you increase or decrease the challenge in terms of moving your appeal up or down, your starting appeal up or down. There's a lot of strategy that you're doing here, a lot of strategy you're employing, and that really, really helps make each game feel very, very, very special. And that's what I really like about it, is it provides a nice thinky puzzle without seemingly being too thinky at the same time. You know, I think if you were to play multiplayer, the people that would have the runaway victory would certainly be the people that played it more than others, because you will start to develop early game strategies the more that you play in this game. So there will be a little bit of a considerable advantage to people that have played it more as opposed to those that haven't played it. But once people have played it a couple of times, and what happens is you get to grips with the basic and you start working out those strategies. My first few games, I was terrible. I was losing, you know, big minus points when I was first playing it. Then I started to develop strategies, start thinking about these objective cards that I was getting, really studying my potential starting hand as well, and that is a key part as well. We barely touched on it here, and I kind of whizzed through those 8 cards to get it down to 4, but you really want to start thinking about your starting hand and how that then can leapfrog you in your early game. Does take a little bit for the engine to get going though, so when you start upgrading your cards and you get them better abilities there, or your zoos have kind of consistent powers that you can start using, does take a little bit. I mean, maybe your first couple of rounds you start thinking, well, nothing's really happening. Then maybe round 2, round 3, suddenly it starts to cling into place and you start to see your appeal go up and you start to see your reputation move up through the board. That becomes really, really exciting. And the way that the cards are structured as well, we didn't touch on the various symbols on the cards. So lots of icons on cards, various creature types and continents and science tokens and water and rock. All those play a part. Not in every game, so maybe one of your objectives is to have a certain number of, I don't know, maybe water tokens, which are on here within your zoo, or rock tokens, or maybe your objective is to have more reptiles or more predators in there. That kind of really gets you thinking as well as you start to play those icons to your benefit, and you can start building up some really, really powerful combos. Kind of managing everything is really interesting as well. You have the coins and the cash that you've got to manage. You have these little X tokens that kind of increase the strength of the cards that you're using. stringing all that together in kind of mid to late game becomes really, really satisfying, as you suddenly start to see your counters move up on both the reputation and on the appeal points as well, and that becomes such a satisfying puzzle for you. So yeah, I think, I say it's relatively straightforward to learn. Yes, there's a bit of a learning curve in it, but it's not massive at the end of the day. It plays in about an hour's time, and it gives you loads of strategic decision space as well. So I absolutely adore this game, but is it a game for everybody? And the answer is obviously no. I think, first of all, you've got to look back to something that obviously heavily inspired this game, and that is Terraforming Mars. Now, for whatever reason, Terraforming Mars doesn't really work for me. I had it maybe a couple of years ago, and I ended up getting rid of it. I just didn't really enjoy the puzzle that much, and I know it's certainly winnable, but I'm terrible at games, and there's times I got close to winning it. And I think with Terraforming Mars, it's expanded in such a way now that to delve back into it just feels a little bit overwhelming for me. Do I need the Prelude or expansion, and do I need this, that, and the other? And I wasn't totally bought into Terraforming Mars, and something here just absolutely clicks for me. But I can absolutely see people that really love Terraforming Mars thinking that this is potentially just a version of it, and they prefer to play Terraforming Mars. The other thing as well is this big stack of cards. You've got 200 and odd cards there, and in the solo game you're a little bit kind of hamstrung in the fact of how much of that deck you're going to get through, purely because of the nature of the gameplay. Now in the multiplayer game, as people start taking cards from the stack and cycling through and pulling cards from the display, etc., they will go through that stack a little bit, considerably faster than you will in the solo game. In reality, in the solo game, you're going to get rid of 2 cards every time on each round, and then any cards you take from the display in terms of snapping, you're going to move from there as well, and any cards you take from the deck. But your options to take cards and cycle through that stack are limited, and within that, having this wonderful stack of big cards also creates a problem in the fact that your strategy, as you think maybe your strategy, may never come to fruition because you're not going through that deck of cards quick enough, and there's no way to kind of advance that as well, and that can be a bit of a problem. So sometimes you can get to mid-game and you can think, the cards just haven't hit for my strategy. I can't change strategy because I'm definitely going to lose, and I can't win this game anyway, and that can be a little bit deflating there as well. Also, the solo game, as I mentioned, it takes place over 7 rounds, but you feel like almost you're just 1 round away every time from achieving greatness in the game. Now, don't get me wrong, I've won the game on a couple of maps, and I've lost heavily on other maps as well. So it is possible, but it does feel tight, and certainly as you get towards the back end of the solo game, where you've only got maybe 2 or 3 moves left, you suddenly feel like, the pressure is really on and I'm not going to do this, and that can feel a little bit... As much as it's great in delivering this kind of 60-minute experience, it can make you just feel a little bit deflated as well, the fact that you're kind of rattling through these. Now, the more that you play the solo game, of course, the more that you realise how quickly you've got to get your engine going to satisfy your strategies, to try and increase your reputation and your appeal. You start to develop ways to do that. But for newcomers to the game, your first few games, you may feel like you haven't really got anything going. And that comes back to the fact that, the engines don't really start until kind of round 2, round 3 within the game as well. Another really annoying thing, one thing that really annoys me, I think the production quality is great, apart from these bloody coins. So they've got these 5, 10, 20 and 1 coins, and they're all these awful black squares of coins in variant sizes. You're going to want to get rid of those as soon as possible because they're just truly annoying and they just don't fit with the game. I think they could have designed a better coin for that. It's a real design niggle for me in this game, and I know I've started using coins and denominations from other games. I've got another metal coins, and sometimes when I played it, I've actually used real coins for it as well, because I really dislike heavily these awful black coins in the game. I don't know why they went with that design choice. It just feels like it just takes the shine off a game just ever so slightly. So yeah, it is a game that won't appeal to everybody. It's a bit of a hot ticket at the moment, and I think there are a lot of people out there that want to play the game because others are playing the game. Bide your time. If it's not really kind of high up on your list of priorities, then don't go out there seeking a copy, because plenty of copies will become available as people buy the game and also then realise that it's not quite the game that they want it to be. I think the other and potentially major thing that is going to stop some people from playing this game, and it's inherent because it is the theme of the game, you are creating zoos. You're creating environments where you're keeping animals in captivity. Now, it does counter this by having conservation projects and by allowing you to release animals into the wild, but bear in mind it is a game about keeping animals in captivity. You are putting animals within enclosures. It doesn't call them cages, it calls them enclosures in here. Now, depending on how you feel about that, that could have a big influence on whether you want to play the game or not. Not whether it's a good game or not. I think there's no denying it. For me, it's a great game. It's an absolutely fantastic game. But I think, you know, people that have strong moral opinions on whether animals should be kept in captivity, on whether you want to be taking part in a game which gamifies captivity, then this game is probably not for you, because you cannot ever get away from that central theme that you're building enclosures to keep animals in. And I think that's a really important point to stress for people as well. So overall, for me, I absolutely adore this as a solo game. I think I mentioned in my top 10 videos of top 10 solo games released in 2021 video that this would have gone on there had I owned the physical copy. I'd only played the physical copy once as a multiplayer game, and I played the tabletop simulator version of the solo game a number of times prior to doing my list. Had this arrived in 2021 for me, it would have been right up at the top of my top 10 solo releases for 2021. I think you'll see this on many people's top 10 lists at the back end of this year. Now, that's very presumptuous because we're only just in February, so we've got a lot of months left to go just yet, about 11 months left of the year yet. But the fact that this game has been so well received by so many people, I do think that you'll see this game on a lot of people's top 10 lists, both as a multiplayer game and as a solo game. The solo game, I say, it's a fantastic dynamic puzzle that you're playing. It can feel a little bit like training wheels for the multiplayer game. Certainly with a multiplayer game, as I mentioned, you know, you've got certain blocking strategies you can do. You're going through the deck a lot quicker, so you're opening up more of the game in the multiplayer game, but that doesn't detract from the solo game. It's one of those games where you will have a different experience playing it multiplayer as you will as a solo gamer, but you will have equally enjoying experiences if you like the core mechanics of the game. So for me, as a solo game, Ark Nova is a stone cold recommendation. If you think this hits your buttons, and it's starting to become available now, I think they've got a second printing in March as well, then you're going to want to go out and find yourself a copy of Ark Nova. I think I paid £60 for it, so it's not an overtly expensive game, but the amount of gameplay I've had since I've had it in those 4 weeks, the number of times it's hit my table on multiple efforts and multiple repeat sessions within one day, just goes to show that I think it's an absolutely glorious game. So Ark Nova, the solo experience, a stone cold recommendation from Not Board Gaming. So thank you very much for joining me on this journey through the solo experience of Ark Nova. Yes, we only scratched the surface of the gameplay. The more you play it, the more you'll find to do within Ark Nova. It's not a game for everybody, be that your objections to keeping animals in or to building a zoo to keep animals in enclosures, or the fact that you absolutely prefer terraforming Mars. There's no right or wrong answer here. For me, it absolutely hits the nail on the head. So yes, thank you very much for joining me on this journey. My name's Mark. This is Not Board Gaming, always B-O-R-E-D. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Check out our other videos. And one final thought. If you can't find anyone else to play with, there's nothing wrong with playing with yourselves. Until next time, bye-bye.